Let's just do it.
Let's do it.
And then we're not on camera as well. Hello, welcome to Dev Plus Design Exchange. I'm here with Brienne,
Hello.
our resident designer, and me, Laurie, from the Engineer Cafe. And we're just going to kind of chat, work on our projects, talk about programming, design, the intersection of the two, and anything like that. If you've got questions, you can ask them on the stream. Or if you run, you'll make it into town and walk through the snow and come to the Engineer Cafe. Yeah. We had a few things we were just thinking about talking about. Where should we start?
Yeah, I guess, we were just talking about me today struggling to set up June and Segment. I think Segment is really interesting.
Yeah, so I don't really know anything much about either of those. So maybe just give me the quick rundown. What is Segment first?
Segment is, it's to manage your customer data.
Yes.
It's sort of, do you know Google Tag Manager?
Vaguely, I've seen people use it.
Yeah, like you attach it to websites and then you sort of can track things a little bit better with Google Analytics or just with GTM. It's sort of like Google Analytics, GTM, but much, much, much more powerful and customizable. Like one of the problems that we were having at work was like, I wanted to see like feature adaptation by different customer groups. With Google Analytics, you can't separate it based on like me as a user versus like another dev versus like an actual client, and with that you can.
So you're trying to track customer data somehow?
Yeah, like how many, like if we just launched an announcement board, so like how many people are opening it, how many people are going to that page, opening the announcements, how long are they on there?
And then June, how does that fit together?
June takes all the information from Segment and puts them into reports and stuff. So it's really useful. Like I use it so that we make design decisions based in like data, not personal preferences.
I see. So this is all trying to feed into your kind of design decisions.
I'm the only person that uses this. None of the devs care about it at all. But they're so nice, and they write the tracking events in JavaScript so that we can get the data.
So you could write the tracking events and everything yourself? And
I could, I just don't really.
Okay.
Because like I wanted to track, like we have a language toggle really prominently on the screen for English and Japanese, but we don't have any English users except for the service team.
Right.
So I want to get rid of that toggle. Or at least move it to a place that's like more practical for the users, because right now it's in the way. So I'm tracking all that data now, so I can come back to the team and it's like, it's not like I, Brie, and Kay think it's stupid. It's like none of our users are doing this, so there's no point in having it.
Having that data must make it a lot easier to convince people about things.
Yeah, because then it stops being about personal preferences.
Right. Yeah, because I think we mentioned this, I think, in the last event, how lots of people think that design is just, I like this, or I think it looks good, when there's maybe a bit more objective things going on.
Yeah, I was having an issue with like a comparison feature that we were doing.
Yeah.
And like I'm bringing into like Gestalt principles of proximity, and other people are like, oh, I just like drop downs better. It's like, okay, I don't care. Yeah,
I mean, this reminds me of a meeting I was on quite a few years ago. It must have been about 2010. And I wasn't working as a programmer, I was a student, but I was at the student representative for IT for my college. They had like an undergrad representative and a graduate representative, and then a bunch of other people from the office. And they had hired a web designer to rewrite the website. Fair enough. And this was back in, people just wrote websites. It's all pretty simple. And he had put together a bunch of really good reasons for specific choices, like why the things in the table were justified the way they were. Because he was saying, well, if you're looking for information for someone's phone number, you scan down and you find their name and then you read across. And it became, the meeting was a bit unfortunate. There was a lot of bike shedding, if you heard that phrase. A lot of people arguing about simple things. You know, oh, I think it should be written like this, push to the left, push to the right.
That's what every single meeting I'm in is like.
Do you know the story of bike shedding?
No.
It's a great little phrase. Basically, it's they're planning like a nuclear reactor or something, and they have a meeting with everyone in, and the engineers at the beginning of the meeting talk about the design for the nuclear reactor.
Yes.
And because that's such a difficult topic, no one says anything.
Yeah.
But at the end of the meeting, they say, oh, we need to have a bike shed, and what color should it be and where should it be? And because this is a topic that everyone can kind of comment on, it took longer to decide than the nuclear reactor.
Yeah, and I think sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a true story, but I think this happens a lot.
Yeah, it never doesn't happen. And I think a lot of people think that it's just like down to personal preferences, but there's a lot of research behind it. Like, I think because like unlike programming where it's like it literally works or it does not work, like then it's just completely up to. I think it's really hard, especially when there's a large team of engineers, or just like more engineers than designers. Like, they're all coming from a similar perspective. So for them, it's like, well, there's consensus amongst us. So obviously, this is the right decision, even though they're one particular group of people who have a bias, like we all do. But the failure to recognize that bias makes things really hard.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. What?
Where this bias occurs, Exactly.
Yeah. I think it is, it's true that, code either works or it doesn't, but I think also programmers and engineers spend a lot of time thinking about, the implications of code beyond whether something works or not. And that's important too.
Yeah, well, that's the only job of a designer is to think about the implications.
So that's what you've been wrestling with today.
I could get segment to connected testing just fine. I got it on the first try, but I'm not doing it successfully in production. I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Environmental issues are something that I think, they can be annoying for everyone because you spend a whole day doing something, and at the end of the day, it's not like you've written a bunch of code or you've designed a bunch of things. It's just that you've tweaked some settings.
I just give up and I call my devs immediately now.
I mean, I don't know how involved your job is with the actual coding side. Like, what am I trying to say? So do you, like, when you're doing design, do you like spin up a local version of the site, anything like that? Or do you?
Right now I am, yes. It really depends on generally no. Like, that's the whole purpose of mock-ups and wireframes is to avoid wasted resources like that. And like for me, I'm just so slow at it. Like our developer does sometimes because he can do it really quickly, but for me, never. Like right now, I'm doing a typography overhaul of our system. And so I wrote all of our font scales and type scales. And I'm going between 3 different scales, but I really can't decide until I see what it looks like in the environment. So right now, like, I'm going through the React stuff and trying to like main title, okay, change this font style. Okay, this is like the subtitle class, change that, because like I kind of need to do it, and it's such a humongous task. I can't get the guys to do it. Like they're obviously going to be the ones to implement it in the long run, but I want to test it first.
Yeah, I wonder if there's gains to be had in making it really, really easy for designers and not so technical people to be able to spin up these kind of testing and development servers, or if it's just
Why are you trying to take away my job?
I'm not trying to take away your job, I'm just trying to, make things easier.
But I guess this is I had another interview in which it was the lead engineer, the CTO, and another head of engineering, and me for a design position. And this lead engineer asked me, as a designer, if you were doing an unsolicited redesign of a website, what would you do?
What exactly does unsolicited mean in this situation?
If I just like for my own fun, like just because I felt like it,
You're not like hacking into their site and going, this is just so badly designed, I've got to fix it.
No, like just like out of my own volition. Like if you wanted to do an unsolicited design, what would you do? So like as a designer, I'm like, well, I'd find the pain points, I'd write user case studies, I would do like a competitive audit, and he's like, what, then what? And I knew there was obviously a specific answer he was looking for that I wasn't giving. He's like, would you hit F12? And it's like, well, no. Like I really would never, because like as a designer, that's the biggest waste of time I can imagine. Like it's not productive, it's not flexible. If I hit the back key, it's all gone. Like to do that in Figma is 1,000 times like faster, easier, and more productive.
Just for the people listening with MacBooks with no F keys, what does F12 do?
Well, that's the other thing. It's dev tools. Because like I have a Mac. Right? Like I only knew F12 was a thing when that Java bug thing was. That was a big story a little while ago.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure what I'm talking about. No, I don't know either.
But yeah, developer tools, right?
Yeah.
Looking at the source code of it.
Yeah, because like honestly, like up until 2 months ago, I didn't even know what F12 was. Like I know what dev tools is, and I know how to use it. But so like when you say like to make it like isn't like something to gamify coding for designers, like, but that's not the tools that we use. It's not the tools I want to use. It's not the tools that are efficient for me.
Yeah. I guess from my perspective is I'm like, if we could get some of that into your hands, would we be able to make the process smoother? And it seems like you're saying that maybe you don't think that's a good idea.
I don't, because like then what you want is just a really good front-end designer, or a full-stack designer. In Figma, like everything I design, you can export as source code. So like, why do I need to learn how to code if it's all done for me at handoff?
And I've not used Figma at all, and I haven't been given code from Figma. Does it produce like good code? Like, is it nice, or is it a bit?
It depends on like.
Because my concern would be that, I'm using some automatic code generation from Figma. It just shoots out tons and tons of really hard to use code.
Well, like it produces mostly CSS.
Sure.
Like it's not, Figma's not writing functions, right? Like that is the developer's job, I guess. Like.
But even, modern CSS has quite a lot of complexity in it, and there's many ways to
From
do
what
things.
I've been told, like obviously, like I'm not the person to ask, like my developers would be, but like from what they say, like they just copy and paste the code from Figma.
Excellent.
So.
No, it sounds like that's a good workflow.
One would think, and yet.
But. Well, if it was really, really easy, we wouldn't have jobs. So I do wonder.
Yeah.
To bring up this topic, I think I mentioned I wanted to talk about this a little bit. With this, the idea was some people call it snapshot testing. Another thing. So maybe I'll just zoom out and talk about testing for a bit. So integration testing. I don't know how much experience you have with things like that, but
no, it is virtually zero.
So basically, the idea of testing and automated testing is, check your code for bugs, check for regressions. So if something is broken, and then you fix it, you make sure you don't break it again with a regression test. And when it comes to testing websites, we have lots of really nice tools which will click through the website for us. Right? So I think everyone does testing, but most of that is manual testing, right? You change some code, you go, I wonder what that looks like, I wonder how the site works. You click through, and then you change something else and you click through. And basically, there's lots of tools out there which is doing this click through many, many times. So, user can log in, and then you have inputs username, inputs password, logs in, blah, blah, blah. And that's the kind of integration testing I'm talking about here. However, what is this snapshot stuff? I came up on this, and I started using Cypress to do this, although there are plenty of other tools around, because I had a project with a HTML canvas in it. And so pretty much all of the testing tools take HTML elements, take elements from the DOM, and check they're there or not, check their contents, check for certain values on them, things like that. But when you have a HTML canvas, you can't do that. There's no DOM in the canvas. It's just, I need maybe a canvas example to talk about this. Just something simple. Things like drawing apps or little bits of graphics and stuff. These are all very, very simple. But we've got some better examples, maybe. Let me show some of the examples from what the actual project was using. It was about graphs and graph viewing and nodes and connections and all this stuff. Things like this, And this is not a DOM. This is just one big screen and shapes, arrows, colors, text being drawn on screens. Great, and this is the right tool for maybe looking at these graphs. However, when it comes time for testing, what do? The problem is I want to be able to have an automated test where I test out, a known shape of graph, and I want to test that my graph algorithm is doing the arrangement correctly. Or I want to test out if I add a node, it actually appears on the graph. I feel like I've talked a lot, and I'm worried that I'm not explaining myself clearly, but so jump in anytime. But so I haven't explained the snapshots yet. So the idea of snapshots is essentially just taking a picture of the canvas and then storing it, and then next time you run the test, checking if that is the same as what it was before. So doing like a visual diff and saying, well, my add new node function didn't work. So there's no new node. So you've got two pictures, one with the node, one from the past run, one without the node. And they don't match. So your testing suite gives you an error because they don't match. And I still feel like I'm explaining myself poorly.
No, I'm just not good at understanding.
I've covered, there's a lot of topics in there, but there's automated testing, but the snapshot testing is essentially you take a picture of your website, you check if it's the same as the picture you took last time.
Right.
That's the whole thing.
Okay,
right?
Yeah.
And
I think the canvas part is what I don't really understand.
Sure. Yeah. So.
And like why I don't understand what I think I understand what a canvas is, but I don't understand. I don't understand the use case of why you'd be testing a canvas.
Partly just because I want to test everything. Partly because the thing I was working on, visualizing data in a canvas, is like the whole thing it does. So okay, maybe I can write a form which will log you in with a login form and test that in a standard way. But basically everything else the app does is based around stuff in a canvas, adding nodes, connecting nodes, rearranging nodes via algorithms. So I wanted to test that these algorithms were doing what I was expecting them to do, and they weren't changing when I refactor some code or change some other code or do things in a different way. And so that's kind of what snapshot testing is. Okay. And for the same reason that non-snapshot testing, just checking buttons are on the right page and things like that, is what I would be doing. If it was a standard, I don't know, some internal accounting app, I would, write an end-to-end test where I make 2 invoices and I make sure that the input amounts and the amounts taken out of the account are the same.
Okay.
So that's it.
And that's just, like if it takes a snapshot and just compares the images and if something's off, then...
Yeah, and so there's a bit of finessing that you can do because, because, you know, the thing I was working on, visualizing data in a canvas, is like the whole thing it does. So okay, maybe I can write a form which will log you in with a login form and test that in a standard way. But basically everything else the app does is based around stuff in a canvas. And so I wanted to test that you can decide how similar the images have to be. So like you can say, I want them to be pixel perfect. And I think bigger companies with worldwide apps like Facebook, they do snapshot testing on their app, and they have it run across many different phones, different OSs and browsers and whatever. And they take a bunch of snapshots. And if they see that a menu has got 2 pixels bigger, and they weren't expecting it to get 2 pixels bigger, they go, hang on a minute, something's going on here. Maybe that's not what I intended to do. So that's one, like you could have really strict snapshot testing like that. I'm using it in a relatively blunt way. I'm like adding a graph, and if the graph doesn't show up, there's a problem.
Right.
Or if I add a node and the node doesn't connect, or gets a connection in a different place, there's a problem. And you can set like a little fuzziness factor in your snapshots, so that the amount of similarity. If something's shifted a pixel across, I don't really mind. But if a node is completely not there, I do mind. And I just wondered if you'd encountered this idea, or like your view on how you might encounter testing, because I figured like a designer might do some kind of snapshot testing, or at least be involved in the process. But it sounds, and I think I've heard it called other things as well.
I'm just going to bookmark Cypress before I forget.
Sure. So Cypress is one way of doing it. I think the code base I was using had Cypress on, so that's kind of the reason I'm using it. But we could look at, there's a few blog posts. I'm trying to find a nice example of what the Cypress interface looks like, because I've not got it on this machine, because it's on my work machine. Oh, I mean, that's a good screenshot. Something like this. So, you have your tests running on the left, and your actual app or your website or whatever on the right, and it's just clicking through automatically, right? And then this is the test runner. So it's all green, it's all good. Something goes wrong, you get a big red thing and an error message. It's just a nice way of kind of doing your testing. And you can have these run, on a testing machine, or you can run them locally while you're developing, or you can have them as part of your continuous integration. If something in the design has changed without, expectation, then maybe reject the build or things like that.
Yeah, we're sort of using Chromatic in the same way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you mentioned Chromatic before. I think it's the same idea. But Chromatic is like based around the idea of like
the stories,
components and things like that as well.
Yeah, so it's like if a component that's in the design system is going to be changed, then it'll be found in the pull request with Chromatic.
Right. Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah, actually, I'm talking about Cypress and snapshots and things. The support for snapshots isn't very good. I think it's a bit neglected, looking at the code and looking at when it was last edited and fixed. It works, and I've used it, quite well for this project, but maybe some other tools are better, and maybe doing. Well, I think it's a bit of a unique case, wanting to test a canvas for so many different things. So how does Chromatic work? You just
it's integrated with Storybook, so I believe that's only Angular and React, but I could be wrong. So like you tie everything that you want to tie in your design system or modules or whatever and create stories out of those that can just be turned into like reusable components that you can scale anywhere. Let's see if I can find my storybook. Do you want to see ours?
Yeah. Do you want to plug into this?
I might be able to just throw you the link.
Oh, that might be easiest.
Maybe not. Oopsies, can't do that. Oopsies.
Yeah, I'm always, well, testing is one of those things where I know it's good, and I know it's something we should do more of, and I always not neglect it, but have a love-hate relationship with testing, especially if your testing setup is complicated.
Yeah, we do so much of our testing. Like I just review it personally. Like it's part of our Jira workflow.
Yeah. I think it's very much the programmer attitude to be like, I want to automate everything.
Yeah. I'd be happy if they automated it. I don't want to look at it.
I mean, I don't know how it might fit into your workflow, but the idea of having these kind of snapshots and images of things, it has been really useful for just catching stuff. Mainly just catching functional errors and things like that, rather than any kind of subtle things.
I just tried to send you the chromatic link on Discord.
Discord, okay.
Yeah, I guess I do. We overhauled all of our page, all of our drop downs across the platform, and that was just a nightmare to QA. And I'm still finding mistakes because it's hard to. I sort of thought that all of the components would be unified, but it looks like they wrote a zillion different instances of them.
So what kind of mistakes do you find?
Just inconsistencies. Oh no.
Oh, it's probably.
I thought it was public. Oh wait, maybe.
Probably best that I don't stream it. Maybe.
I think. I don't care. I think that you can actually get into my stories, though. I don't think that's private.
How would I get in?
This one, I'm almost positive we made public. I made public.
Nope.
Oh, that's weird.
Anyway, never mind. But yeah, I think the underlying idea is the important thing of this.
Yeah. Yeah, so with the drop downs, as use cases came along, the developer would just import a bunch of different libraries. So none of the border radius, border widths, font sizes, font weights, font faces, drop downs, shadows, highlights were consistent. They just all were different. So we tried to unify all those.
Yeah, I guess. Sounds like a lot of front end development work, right? Trying to get the styles all to match and be sensible.
Yeah, but it looks so crazy when they're all different. It looks so unprofessional.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would have been great to have, I guess, screenshot testing to do that, because it wasn't very fun.
Yeah, if you can isolate the components and then get it down to the pixel level and do that kind of testing, it could flag up a lot of issues like that and find them, in theory, automatically.
Yeah.
But there's a bit of an upfront cost of setting up that testing.
Would that be done when they're writing the components?
Well, it's probably Actually, like once you've got your testing framework set up, I think making the test is probably not too bad.
Okay.
But again, I have no idea how chromatic works in this sense. I'm not sure. Yeah, even with Cypress, you can grab a random component from the page and take a picture of it and compare it to something you took a picture of last week, if you want.
Are you able to like thinking of like the drop downs, like if no, because would you be able to go see that, like, okay, like on page X it was this before, this after, on page Y it was this before, this after? Could you go check to compare all the Y's together?
What do you mean, all the Y's?
Like if it was like, or no, all the afters together, sorry. So like I've got like A to Z pages, before and after. Can I see that all like A to Z are the same?
Oh, I see. So you want the... Right, so like you've changed
We
something,
changed like 50,000 drop downs.
and you want them all to be the same.
Yeah, so they all went from all different to all the same. Because
I
like
don't
now I'm just checking
think-
on them individually.
I don't think there's like built-in support for that. I mean, again, like it depends on how consistent your things are. Like if they're exactly the same.
They're not, because it'll
Then-
depend on like the content.
Yeah, I think if something depends on the content, you're never going to be able to compare them all
Yeah.
against each other with this technique.
So even to compare them with like the classes,
What do you mean? Compare them with the classes?
like the CSS classes.
Like compare what's on what classes each one has?
Yeah, like maybe to like ignore the content and just focus on like border width, border radius, or whatever.
Oh yeah, I think you definitely do that. That's much more the kind of standard integration testing.
Okay.
Taking snapshots is like taking an image file, which is a little bit unusual, and the HTML canvas was the reason for doing that, because you can't get any numbers out of the canvas, but you can get the CSS
Right.
or get the content, get the styles from an element. So I think in theory that you should be able to integration test that. Maybe if you get them all the same, then you could have a regression test for that. So you could, we know these are good and these are correct.
Right.
If someone makes a new one, or if someone changes one of them, it should flag that up. I see what you're going for, is like, I want to know all these components are the same. I feel like testing is not really designed to do that in some ways. I feel it could do, and it sounds like an interesting use case, but it's more of a kind of design decision of like, if all these components are supposed to look the same with the same border radius, then that border radius should be written once somewhere, and they should all be getting that value.
And yet they're not.
Well, that's the tricky part of, writing good software is finding these kind of planes of abstraction.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was so like it really surprised me that like they were all. Like I thought it was just going to be like okay, we're going to unify this, so all the things we have we're just going to unify into one, and then it'll just be like a place on like in every instance. Sorry.
Just click your fingers in front of the microphone.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Like on every instance of every page, it would just be replaced.
Yeah, I mean that's the dream, right?
But it's definitely not what happened.
And so, I think what tends to happen if it's a big project, big code base, is these little things, they build up, and you just, this is a little bit different to this, and this is a little bit different to this, and they've been written multiple times. If you have really high quality code, then that would be the case. And you can see that high quality code makes it much easier to make changes, because you can say, oh, well, all of our styles come from here,
Right.
but it's not easy. That's the job of programming, is to get this to be easy. I think when you see really good programmers, and I don't class myself as a really good programmer, when you see really good programmers working on stuff, you just think like, oh, it's so simple. And, keeping it simple is the hard thing.
I think that like the dev that started on this, like it was only he was the only person working on it, and I don't know. I think he's really good, so I'm surprised. And then like he's leaving, and like this other guy's taking over, and this new guy was doing like all the new drop downs, and so I was surprised that he didn't unify everything, because I think that our first developer is really good.
Well, I think he probably wants to. Right? He probably wants to.
He should have done it.
It's maybe, it's not so easy.
Yeah, but it sounds like he's just gonna have to do more work later.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing, right? You're getting pulled in all these different directions. The deadline for this is soon.
He had no deadline for anything else. That was his only project.
Sure. I just mean in general in programming, it's like you're getting pulled with requirements, clients, managers, other projects.
But he wasn't. That was his only project, and we gave him an unlimited deadline.
Well, maybe there's something else I don't know about. I can't comment on someone else's work, so I don't know and haven't seen it.
Because we wanted him to be very relaxed. So here's this little thing you can do. There's no deadline. And now I'm going to give him the typography thing, which seems like the most boring thing so you could give a developer, but...
Oh. Wow.
And a whole bunch of drop-downs and a whole bunch of typography.
A whole bunch of drop-downs.
I wouldn't be jealous. But
I don't know.
maybe some devs like that.
Once you, finding a good abstraction and getting it all working is very nice, Yeah. Cool. I think we've done a lot of chatty bits. Do you want to work on something, or do you want to chat some more?
Oh, I'm good for either.
I'm not a bit frazzled from just fighting with a bunch of stuff today in terms of code, but I thought I might mess around with something. I'm not sure what.
What are you working on?
I've just been messing around with Fast API recently. I don't know if Fast API is kind of a framework for Python backends and APIs. It's very... We've spoken about Django in the past. Django is very kind of Rails-like. It's like lots of convention. Fast API is kind of the opposite. It's like not much convention.
Okay.
If you've used Flask, things like that, it's quite similar to that.
Nope.
If you just take a quick look at the Hello World example, Fast API, very simple. This is the whole thing that you need to write to get. But I'll do it now and run it. I'm going to make a quick example. So, there's not much to look at because it's an API, but if I run it, and the server's called Uvicorn, and I can never type it. Unicorn with a V. What is it? Yeah, and that's it. So you can see it's getting a JSON response. And that's basically it. It's just a really quick way of writing things. It also gives you this documentation for your API built in. So here's the kind of route that we just made, and if we wanted to make another, it'd be very, very quick. I can just copy what I had before and give it a new one. So if I make a route called Brian, so if I access my local server, I can't see those. Am I there?
8,000.
Yeah, okay. Access the new route I just made. Yeah.
Hello.
But it's just the amount of code you have to write is very small. This is actually a very, very super simple example, but it's just adding a Python decorator to a Python function, and that's it. And of course, there's more complexity and more other things you have to deal with writing an API, but it just works really nicely with a bunch of stuff. So I mean, I'm just getting started. I'm just having a mess around with this and seeing what I can do. But if you've already got, like, in the university, there's a lot of Python code written for sort of data science and things like that, and so you've got a big hunk of Python code written already. Very easy to just use a bit of fast API and run it as a quick server somewhere for some like data processing stuff.
Cool.
So I was going to maybe mess around with this a little bit more today. Are you messing around with anything?
Website, portfolio.
Yeah. I actually added, I've updated my GitHub portfolio, if I can find the page.
I tried to add you on LinkedIn.
Oh, I didn't see. I don't really use LinkedIn. But, yeah, I just added some stuff.
Oh, it looks quite nice.
And then I have an idea of what I want to put on the left. I showed it to some people and I said, oh, it'd be nice if it had a picture or something. And I was like, yeah, but pictures a little bit.
Pictures are awful.
You know. So I was thinking, I was trying to 3D scan my face.
That's cool.
And I got the 3D model.
Oh my god.
On the scan. And I was thinking, pop this into like a little JS kind of HTML canvas widgety thing. And maybe have it right here and have it follow your mouse around the screen.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really funny.
Wait. Go. Oh, shit. Go to. Shit. I think it's. Lasange?
Yeah? How do I spell that?
I'm trying to find it. It's.
Lasange.
Yeah, it's the monkey.
The monkey, yeah. I was just thinking that. I'm trying to remember my old French. What other keywords might be useful?
It's a design agency. It might be Lasange. I might have messed up.
How do you spell sound?
I believe it's S-N-I-G-E.
S-N-I-G-E. Do you mean S-I-N-G?
No, it is, yeah, there we go. What did I say? S-I-N-G-E.
S-I-N-G.
Yeah, it's L-E-S-I-N-G-E .Paris.
Oh, I think I found it. Oh, that's exactly what I wanted to do, yeah. But like mine's creepier, I think.
Yes, yours is creepier.
But they've got the nice like metallic effect.
It's so good. I love like all the scratch marks on it. Like it's so good.
If they scan something real, I just follow it.
I would kill to find out.
You should speak to Aaron if you want to do something like that. He's, scanning everything.
I don't know Aaron.
Do you know Aaron? He's the guy at Hack for Croker a lot. I think maybe you've run into him briefly.
I'm not sure.
He's running the VR challenge. We're doing it on Sunday morning here actually. He's doing like a VR workshop, showing people how to do VR. And then there's going to be a competition. He's doing like one every other month.
That's cool.
So it's like workshop, then competition, then workshop, then competition. So if you're interested in this stuff, and his company does a lot of scanning things. They scanned a bunch of the Fukuoka City Museum items.
That's cool.
Like the golden seal, because it's quite hard to scan reflective things, you know.
I'm just obsessed with their site.
That's exactly what I want to do.
How hard is that to do?
Well, I haven't done it yet, but so I don't know. But I think the stuff I was looking at is like 3JS. Maybe some words in it. What's that? This kind of library for doing 3D things. And essentially, I've got the 3D model, so all I have to do is load the 3D model and move it a little bit.
Right.
How hard can it be? Famous last word.
Just like follow the mouse.
Yeah, so I'm hoping maybe I can do that if I have a bit of time, although it's a kind of not important thing. But
Yeah, you could let people splotch on your face.
Gotta be careful about the colours.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so I was hoping to make something like that, just to be a bit fun and a bit different.
Yeah.
But also probably because I was thinking for the VR challenge, I'm probably going to need to be able to load. I was going to do web VR because I don't want to mess around with Unity, so maybe do something like that.
That's cool. Yeah, it's brutal having your picture in your website, I think. Like, everyone's telling me to have my picture on my homepage.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
I don't know. I feel like, at least for programmers, if a programmer has like a HTML site with no CSS, no JavaScript, I'm like, that's perfectly normal. You know, just a list of things. Like, in fact, my personal site basically started like that, and I added a little bit of theming, but not much. Yeah, this is my Micro Mysteries site, which, again, is extremely minimal. But actually, some people started reading them. I don't know where. So I got a few people sending me messages, like last week, saying like, "Oh, I think this is the solution to this one."
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was really pleased about that, actually.
It's always funny how people find it. Like, I have a blog devoted to sweets, and I just get viewers from the craziest places.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, how on earth did you ever find me?
Yeah, my friend has a blog, and he publishes, something every couple of weeks, and he says like, just one country or something, someone
Spikes,
popular
yeah.
that picks it up, and it just blows up.
It's so strange. But it's fun. Do you want to see what I cut?
Yeah. Oh wow, what's that gonna do?
They're,
So people listening can't see, but
yeah, nobody...
laser cut was that? Or 3D
Yeah,
print?
these are
cut?
laser cut. They're for their desktop monitor, laptop, and phone. Acrylic stencils for wireframing. And so when I start
So you
wireframing,
can do it pen and paper.
yeah, like that's what a designer does, right? Is
Right,
like
right.
wireframe. So like, I use it as a stencil, so it goes way faster than getting at my ruler. And then like when you start to like go through along with the process more, like you can go like from screen to screen to screen to screen. It's just like most people have something like that, like a paper cutout that they use, but I wanted something a little bit more cute.
Nice.
So yeah, as soon as I printed them, I decided I wanted to do differently, but maybe next week.
Yeah, like I couldn't imagine doing anything analog really, I guess.
That's all I do.
I always have like a notepad on my desk because I can't fit things in my brain, but yeah.
Yeah, that's how everything starts, is just lines and scratches.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I just have to keep talking because the microphone's switched on, Maybe we should just forget about that.
Sure.
End the stream there, maybe, and just...
Can you see when people join?
You can kind of get a little graph, but I think I didn't really publish it anyway. Well, thank you for listening, everyone.
Thank you for listening to everybody.